but we might not get through everything tonight. So first of all, just some ha'aros. One about Dalet Kostos, an interesting formulation I'd never seen before. The Rambam, the formulation B'chol Dor V'Darchei Haros Es Atzma Kilu Yatzim Mitzrayim. The Rambam is famous, and he says one should demonstrate physically that as if he left Egypt. So famously, I think this Rambam is quoted as those who have the custom to dress up. They put on a turban. They put a sack of whatever they call a little bushel behind their back. That's how the Rambam is famously quoted. But at a much more practical level, whether you dress up or not at your Seder, as if you're demonstrating you're going out. The Rambam says, in the same halacha, the notion of Dalet Kostos is a kiyum, or he puts in the same halacha, it seems to imply that drinking 4 cups is an expression of Darchei, of demonstrating that you're leaving. How is drinking 4 cups a expression of leaving? I never thought of this before, but he says it pretty clearly in the footnotes, that a slave would never be able to drink 4 cups of wine. A slave would never be able to get drunk, because a slave, there are very rigid rules on what is okay and what's not okay. The fact that you're drinking 4 cups and the fact that you're drinking alcohol, that is in itself an expression of Darchei, which I never really thought of. It seems like such a simple idea that the editors here comment on the bottom of that first opening Rambam. Okay, Either way, okay, let's go on to how much does one need to drink. That's also a big question. So first of all, in Kiddush, typically all you need to have is a mali lugma, which is a cheekful. You just need to have a tam. The average size tam of a person's drink is considered based on their subjective body, and therefore you need a cheekful is considered the taste that one needs for a cup. But you saw that the Tosfos and the Gemara quote that on Pesach is an Indian to have rov kos, to have a majority of a cup, which is more. So the Bach points out a very beautiful distinction. He says, why is there a difference between Kiddush and benching, where all you need is a moli lugma, and on Pesach we need to have rov kos? So he says, for those who saw it, I think it's a very sharp insight. He said that when it comes to Dalet Kosos, the mitzvah is having a cup. So there, where the mitzvah is to have a cup, so there we define, did you fulfill your obligation? Unless you have, quantities would show you had most of the cup. As opposed to Kiddush and benching, where Kiddush and benching, first of all, the reason why we do it on a kos, you can do Kiddush without a cup, you can do Kiddush on bread, you can do Kiddush ba'alma, you don't need to have wine, we do it on wine to make it more chashim, therefore tima ba'alma is okay. Just any taste, and mali lugma is a regular swig, a regular chug, that's enough. But on Pesach, it's not a din of drinking, it's a din of having Dalet Kostos. It's more about the whole cup, and that's why there's a larger shear. So the question that comes up, I'm sure everyone's Seder, is you show up at the Seder and they only have these massive goblets, what to do? So we saw, basically the posts seem to say that lechatchila, one should try to have rov kos no matter how big your cup, even if it's the shear chazanish, the 5 whatever ounce shear. The Mishabura basically says, B'diavad, you can rely on the minimal shear of having a revius, having a 3 ounces. But lechatchila, the Mishabura says one should really ahead of time game plan, strategize. Don't just show up at the Seder and realize that the cups are 5 ounces and you don't want to get drunk, or you don't want to have so much sugar in your system. So you should have cups which reflect the size that you are intending to drink, in order that you can fulfill the shito, which say to have a rov kos. So you should have a cup which is 3 ounces. That's okay. Then you can have a rov kos, which is 1.6, approximately 1.7 ounces. The minimal shears, the range is from about 3 ounces, 3.3 ounces, till approximately 5 ounces. So you can, if you're trying to have rov kos, just work from there. How much is half of that? And a little more than half, and then you can figure out how much you need to drink. Okay, that's enough. Let's move on to leading. So the Shita of the Raviyah, which is important to know, the Shita of the Raviyah is that Bisman Azad, most people don't lean, it's not an expression of chaos, it's not so natural, and therefore, essentially, this can be relied on. The Shulchan Aruch brings it down lehalacha as a Shita to rely on, and you can rely on this Raviyah. Women can definitely rely on the Raviyah, that's the context where the Rambam quotes it. And also, if you forgot, it happens all the time. You drink, I don't know, I'm usually that guy who says to my siblings, okay, we gotta lean, but what if no one reminds everyone you gotta lean? So what are you supposed to do? So I think it was the Mishabura, but it may have been someone else, said specifically that the last 2 cups, b'diavad, if you forgot to lean, it's okay. For the first 2 cups and for matzah, you should do it again. So everyone should try to lean as best as possible. If you forget, again, why that is, the difference between the first 2 and the last 2, tzarchim or shear for another time, but definitely the last 2 cups, you forgot to lean, it's okay to rely on the Ravya. Women can rely on the Ravya. Definitely someone finds it very uncomfortable. You have a sheet which says you don't do it today. Okay, karpas. Moving on to karpas. I know that some of my siblings love karpas. They love the potato. Everyone's hungry eating the meal. So the Mishabur says one should really not have a kazayis. That's what we pass because you don't have to make a bracha achrona on if you eat more than kazayis. But there is a sheet to the Rambam, which I'm so happy to learn. The sheet to the Rambam says no, you should have a kazayis. So this is for myself. I was always telling my siblings, no, you have to have less kazayis. They always said we don't care, we want to have more. So they were holding like the Rambam. The Rambam says no, you should have a kazayis, and that's a lechatchila according to the Rambam, and that's probably because karpas is part of the Seder. Any type of achila Seder, you should have a kazayis. Either way, whether you had a kazayis, but if you had a kazayis, you still should make a bracha achrona because Mikra Din, the bracha on the appropriate dama goes in the Mara later, so you don't make an after bracha. Moving on to Magid, there's an interesting comment of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach that says, for all those who are going to the Seder by their in-laws, by their parents and grandparents, if let the grandparent be the Baal Seder. You don't have, if you have little kids and you were hoping to be the Baal Seder, you have no chiyuv to actually teach your kid directly yourself the Seder. If your father, your grandfather, your father-in-law, whoever wants to lead the Seder, that is okay. You don't need to have multiple conversations. You don't have to directly teach your kids. If there's a Baal Seder, so the Baal Seder can be the one who's doing most of the talking. Okay, moving on to matzah. A very fascinating thing. I'm not sure if I caught this in previous years, but there's a whole discussion by matzah and how much one is supposed to eat. So first of all, why do we have 3 matzahs? The reason we have 3 matzahs is because we're trying to fulfill both have lechem isha. Typically we have 2 full chalas, then we need to have, in this case, matzah, and we also have lechem only. We have that broken piece that we broke at yachatz. That's why we have 3 matzahs. One to break, you still can have lechem only. The Rambam says it's enough really to have 2 matzahs. I don't know minhag Sfarad, but I would imagine there are people who only have 2 matzahs because based on this Rambam, one broken one and one shalim. But either way, the Rush says one should eat a kazayis from both the shalim and from the broken one, which is a lot of matzah. If you think that means all of us are supposed to eat 2 kazesim for just motzi matzah. Forget getting the kazayis by korech and the kazayis by afikomen. That means now we're up to 4 kazesim matzah. So some of us may be doing that. I don't know. I just like matzah. Some of us don't like matzah. That's a lot of matzah to chew, literally. So the Bach says it seems strange. I understand 1 kazayis for the kazayis of the matzah of alachilas matzah, the mitzvah matzah. But why on the one that's eaten just for lechem mishnah, the one on Shabbos? We paskin that on Shabbos. If you eat less than a kazayis, it's not a bracha matala. You made it hamotzi. Why do you need a whole kazayis just for hamotzi as well? So the Shabura quotes, the Shulchan Aruch quotes. The language of Shulchan Aruch is staggering. It says, "V'yochlim ba'aseva b'yachad kazayis mikol echad." You're supposed to eat 2 kazesim of matzah, motzi matzah. If you can't, sounds like force feeding. If you can't shove them both in your mouth at the same time, then you can do 1 kazayis at a time. Mishnah gets a whole discussion about what does it mean? How do you shove 2 kazesim matzah into your mouth at the same time? I've never done this before. I never even knew there was an Indian of having two kazesim. Mishnah says, b'di'evet, it's okay to have 1 kazayis made up from the shalim and the broken. I think that's what most people are relying on. But you should know that the Shulchan Aruch and Mishabur seem to say that lechatchila, if you love matzah and you're able to stomach it, so you should have 2 kazesim of matzah at the motzi matzah. Again, something I never realized until learning this sugya. How much is a kazayis of matzah practically? So in the end, he says the Pnei Halacha quotes 1/3 of a machine-made matzah. So if you're picturing that square, so you're picturing that you're basically eating 2/3 of a whole matzah, which is not an exorbitant amount. I think many people like shmura matzah. Typically, that's not the biggest amount to eat. Yeah.
Well, most people use handmade matzah, right? So
correct. So how do you measure it? I'm not sure how to. I just picture a square, and then approximately estimate. I don't know. Somewhere between 1/3 and 1/3 and a half.
It's still the same amount. It's just
right. But now you're being cognizant of why you're doing it. I'm saying. So I think those who like matzah have no problem eating half a shmura matzah for motzi matzah. But now we're realizing you're trying to get two kazesim, not just one. So you're eating about 2/3 for motzi matzah of a square, one of those square matzahs. And if you can't stand matzah and you want to rely on the mishabura, so you have what to rely on. You just eat the one kazayis. Okay, what's matzah shmura? So just matzah shmur is a whole. The Torah says shmartem es matzah. You have to watch the matzah. So there's 3 different opinions of when the matzahs, the grain needs to be watched from. The grain needs to be watched from Shas Ketzira, the time of harvesting. Shas, I think it's Tachina, the time of the grinding into the dough, the flour, and then the last shita is what was the last shita?
Yeah.
Just when it's already shas lisha and afia, maybe that's the last shita. So lechatchila, why don't you try to eat shmura matzah? The poskim say based on the pasuk be'erev tochlu matzos that there's more of an inyan to have shmura matzah at the Seder. So some of the minhag to have shmura matzah the whole week. That's already midas chasidus. That's already going above and beyond. That's like the Gra says the mitzvah to eat matzah all week long. Me'ikra din though, you should try to have shmura matzah for the Seder, and that's based on the pasuk says be'erev tochlu matzos. If you look on your matzah though, it will say, you could go home and you can watch how do they bake matzah. It's fascinating. I watched some clips today how they bake the machine matzah, and you can watch it, and then the packaging will say matzah shmura meishas ketzira. That means it was made from the beginning, from the time of harvesting. That's the most chamer. That's the highest version. What is the whole discussion about shmura matzah when it comes to machine matzah? The whole discussion regards 2 things. Number 1 is about chimutz. The question is, can it ferment or become chametz? The bigger shaila with machines, because whether you're looking at it when you're working with your hand, avodas yad, or you look at the machine, it's really the same. There's a human involvement. The big question is about the Rashi says that shmura matzah does it have the kavana? Was it made l'shem mitzvahs matzah? And that's why there are big signs in all the matzah factories, l'shem mitzvahs matzah, and all the workers are supposed to be saying l'shem mitzvahs matzah over and over whenever they're involved in the steps. The shaila is, they have these unbelievable machines which are doing all the work. The people are basically just guiding the dough through these machines, but the machines are doing everything from start to finish. It's worth it to go Google it when you get home. You can see how matzah is made. The question is it considered l'shem mitzvahs matzah if I'm just pushing a button, l'shem mitzvahs matzah, and then the matzah is basically made on its own? So Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach basically said that if someone is actually watching over properly, then it's better to do avodas yad, to have handmade matzah, and that's what those companies which are making a fortune off of our shmura matzahs, they're paying because they're taking the time and effort to make it all avodas yad, make it by themselves. The machine-made matzah, there's a lot of the labor is taken care of by the machines, and the workers, there are plenty of workers there, and they're watching it very carefully, but they're not doing the same amount of labor. And so basically the poskim say best to use the handmade matzah if someone watched it over carefully for the Sedarim. Next best would be to use shmur matzah for doesn't need to necessarily, it can be machine made shmur matzah for all of Pesach, but if you need to, you can also use the machine made non shmur for at least the non Sedarim is definitely okay to be eaten as well. Okay, I think that's where we're gonna stop. We'll stop here. Okay.